Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Empathy Power Up. It is Tuesday, July 20th, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. And we have a wonderful guest for us today. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin to introduce her.
Oh my gosh, this is really exciting. We're going to be talking about some amazing stuff today. We've got Dr. Grin with us, who is a board-certified licensed clinical psychologist and the co-founder and CEO of Empathic AI, a company that's focused on humanizing AI with empathy. It's really exciting, really interesting stuff. This is all related to our topic today of how empathy can be built and what role tech plays in assisting that and scaling building empathy towards and making it a habit and changing behaviors. She's also the founder of Therapists in Tech, a collaborative of over 500 digital mental health experts who are defining the digital mental health revolution together. Prior to founding her own company, Dr. Lord was the chief clinical officer of License.io, clinical product psychologist at Uper.ai, and research scientist at University of Washington. Dr. Lord's areas of expertise include conversational design, using AI and machine learning to augment human connection, evidence-based therapies, health coaching, and psychology. Oh, this is an amazing opportunity for us to talk to you. Welcome, Dr. Lord. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for the kind intro. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to dive into this topic. We have this quick power up, so let's dive in deeper. How did Empathic AI happen? What was your journey to coming to Empathic AI? And then please tell us what it is.
Yeah, I definitely will. So as you mentioned, I'm a psychologist. I actually started working here at Harborview Medical Center, which is our level 1 trauma center. And I was a part of a series of studies where we found that when we listen to people with empathy after they come into the hospital, they actually can make profound changes. One of the things that we found was when we give people a little bit of empathic listening, even as little as 15 or 20 minutes after they come into the hospital after a drunk driving accident, that they actually stop their drinking patterns significantly. And what we found is that effect held for 3 years, and there's a 46% drop in readmissions. So that was like my introduction into the field, was learning that the way that we listen to people can have huge shifts in behavior. I started training folks in this form of listening and therapy, and that became basically my life, was to become a trainer. I was working doing workshops, teaching people how to listen with empathy. And what we found from that after many years is that actually it's really hard to train people in how to do this from a workshop. You can't learn empathic listening from a PowerPoint, amazingly. Like, you don't actually do it. I know, yeah. So science told us that. We did role plays, coaching, things like that. And this kind of pulled me into how tech can assist us with training. The first startup I was a part of, you mentioned Listen, actually took audio recordings of therapy and gave an automated report, telling people what skills they used, how empathic they were, so they could shift their behavior. But still, even with a report, it is hard to know, like, okay, so I looked up the report 3 days later, I see like different skills, like, but what do I do in the moment? So that's how Empathic was born, where I was like, let's see if we can just do these corrections in real time and have something almost like Grammarly for empathy, where we're auto-correcting your texts, your emails, wherever you're working, giving immediate suggestions and coaching in real time. So that's how it was born. And yeah, I can stop there.
That's incredible. And like the journey you shared, and I love that what you brought is this incredible, and this takeaway from this first section, which is just by listening with empathy, you can make an impact. And that is something is in our control that we can do. And you need that correction, because you shared, and I think Amy, myself, and your experience have led to, you can't just check the box. Amy, I love how you say it, is like, you get a lot of people who come to you and says, hey, can we just learn empathy? Can we do a workshop and check the box, right?
Yeah. Constant work. And it's actually really hard to do. So even for folks like me that have been training in this, my whole life, you can use the instant corrections and realize like, oh yeah, okay, I needed to ask that in an open-ended question, or repeating back what I heard before I give advice. And having something there giving you those corrections when you're like working or rushing is really helpful.
Yeah, I'm curious, Grin, when you define innovation, but empathy, like how are you defining empathy in this context? Because I'm curious, because it's an AI, is it an AI engine that also powers it as well?
Yes, there's an AI engine that's powered actually by licensed therapists who are helping us to define the construct. So they play these games called Empathy Rocks that I built that actually train them in different skills. And they rank each other's responses. They provide the most empathic statements to actual real people on the internet. And so they're building that model. We're intentionally sourcing that data from folks all around the country. It's English speaking only at the moment, but it's actually from all around the world. And we're looking at the demographics, and we're really trying to intentionally source data that doesn't have AI bias from people so that they're defining what empathy is. I will say that we have some bumpers on that. It's not just like totally free form, because we are training them in these specific skills that coming out of research, we know work and are objectively rated as more empathic. So those skills that, for example, demonstrate understanding, which is like a key part of empathy. But they could also be skills that support autonomy or lead to collaboration. Like there's a lot of different related constructs to empathy that this is targeting.
That's incredible. So is it really, when we talk about empathy, when we're engaging with different groups of people, is this work like how is it so focused on ourselves versus the work of engaging with other people? Is that how much, is that like contextual in the space that you're in, or is it something that that we have to work on individually?
That's a really good question. So some of what we know from the research on empathy is it does have to do with synchrony, and context is a big part of that. So you can't just learn a whole bunch of empathy skills and be like, cool, now I'm empathic. Like you're not actually. And I've written some articles about that too, because when I was at Listen, I listened to thousands, actually before that too, thousands and thousands of hours of therapy, and really well-trained people that are supposedly very good at empathy and know all the right things to do can completely miss cues, cannot understand context, and also, bring their own lens and frame or biases into that discussion. So it is really about context, but you can't really open yourself to understanding another person's context without some of these basic skills. So it's kind of you have to have both, like the training that I'm giving therapists on Empathy Rocks. If they don't have that, if they don't have a basic reflective capability, very unlikely that they're going to be able to walk into a meeting with someone they don't know and really be able to open their mind to the context and synchronize.
And that's one of the things that sort of I initially resonated towards when I learned about what the work you were doing is. I've always thought of, like, as a therapist, where is at what point do therapists go through empathy training? What point is it that they're doing it? Because the system is, we need help, let's go to a therapist. And I would want to go to a therapist that is building empathy, working towards that, because that is what I would want in that moment, to be understood. And so your work sort of brought me to that. And you said you did a lot of thousands of hours, like you listened to so much of therapy. What are some of the takeaways you learned, like that led you to that we need to correct, sort of build this correction?
That's a really good insight. So I don't want to scare anyone, but this is out in the research as well. Psychotherapy is actually one of the domains where it is difficult to train in expertise. There's some debate about that, but it is unlike a surgeon where, you go through a number of surgeries and you're an expert. You could have been a therapist for years and not be empathic. And part of that is because when the door's closed in the therapy room, it's highly confidential, and we're not getting a lot of feedback like you would in a surgery room. Okay, yeah, you sniffed the wrong thing there, like in a closed room. So some of the projects I've been doing have been trying to open that up. So Listen was all about like, let's see what people are actually saying. Oh, sorry, I'm back on my mic. I'll just keep going. All right, thanks. Yeah, so we're trying to see like what people are actually saying. And what I found from listening to all those hours of therapy is like, you need this training. I don't care if you have a doctorate. I don't care if you're the most empathic person in the world. Like, unless someone is reviewing every one of your conversations or you're getting an objective rating, like the likelihood is that you're going to have variation person to person, context to context, and you may not be that empathic. So these are some of the ways that we're trying to look at that. Sorry, I was just reading some of the comments. Expertise in psychotherapy. There's some Wampold articles about that too. You can read. Yeah, so therapists need this. Everyone needs this. It's very difficult to do and to learn, but it can be done. But you just need feedback. You need to open yourself to learning new skills and to allowing people to in the moment corrections, whether that's a human or in my case an AI. Either way, this is like kind of where it starts.
I think one of the things I learned from Amy, which was we can't, and I completely believe that is it's not that the tech is coming to the rescue. The human has to do the work. We have to reflect. The tech is to assist. And I think we need to understand that, right? We have to do the work, and we are willing to do the work. What is your thoughts in when having that conversation with potential clients or people like, hey, this is a solution that we built to help you assist versus completely saying, giving yourself into the technology?
Yeah, I mean, with our example, we're offering suggestions and corrections. You can obviously reject those, so you have to be open to it. We also have some things where folks can kind of pick the goals they'd like to work on and the frequency of corrections. So maybe they're like, I want to be more curious. I want to ask more open-ended questions. I'm only going to get corrected on that this week. And they will learn that skill. They'll get the prompts, they get the corrections. And the hope and the idea is that then they could do that in real life, not with the tech assist. Or they could get corrected in everything and just have a total transformation. And there may be some folks, that can't learn these skills without AI assist. So you do have to have some theory of mind. You have to have reflective capabilities. We are building that into the computer. But this actually allows folks, coming from different cultures or with neurodiversity to engage in open-ended conversations with an assistant as well. So the idea would be that, yes, the human is the agent and that this will shape people, but it also provides consistent support.
Well, I'm curious what the experience is like from an individual. So is the empathic AI look at your text messages and the emails you write, and is that correct? And then they just give you corrections on how to make this more empathetic?
Yeah, you have to choose where you want to plug it in, but yeah, that's exactly what it can do. Or we could embed in different. We have an API, so we can embed in different SaaS platforms. And we have the games as well that are a gamified way of learning. If you don't want to be learning in your emails, you can actually go and learn the skills, read articles, play the games, and get continuing education credits for that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, because I'm curious about this because it's like where, and I think you were getting to this, Kevin, is like where does that intersection meet with like real life and engaging with people and the technology and having that Grammarly for empathy, like and how and what is some ways that you can turn that into the real life engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people that when I pitched a product, they've been like, oh, I need an earpiece with like empathic, like I can't just do it in my texts. Like I want someone telling me like these are the kind of things at the moment. You know, we're not there yet, but this is just a starting point. We definitely don't see this as replacing any type of human. I can see some, you know, areas in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting. I mean, the last thing I'll just say is like, I'm thinking about it when we're making connections to like Grammarly, but for empathy. I'm also thinking about like Google Translate, right? For empathy, right? How can we translate what somebody's saying into something more empathetic? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like auto-tune for text in some ways. It's better to think of it that way than as like a corrector, because, you know, sometimes you're actually replacing entire things and saying, this is a phone call, like it's like a behavioral prompt. Like maybe don't send this on a text. Like you need to be talking to people, and that's the most empathic thing. So like a combination of here's how to say it, but also like here's a behavioral prompt, and you need to go to this person and not have this crap email at 3 a.m. Like probably not.
Yeah. You see so many people who would need that in my life right now.
Oh my God. I'm imagining like now like a little sci-fi short film we're going to make with like this earpiece, and this is going to be amazing. And it's a city where everyone is just talking to each other. And it turns out by just practicing empathy, the world is just perfect, right? Because it's the
opposite of Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Black Mirror. I think
it's like white mirror.
It's dystopia.
It's thank you so much, Dr. Lord, for coming in. It was an awesome opportunity to get to dive a little bit into this and get to know some of the work and your story and the journey leading to this. Thank you so much. And final thoughts, Amy. Final thoughts, Dr. Lord.
I'll leave it all for Dr. Lord.
Final thoughts is, I guess I would say to those of you that are looking, like, how could I start, you know, being empathic immediately with or without AI, is just to practice repeating back what you hear and checking for understanding, ask open-ended questions. These are some of like the very, very basic building blocks of verbal skills that can help you with empathy. So I'll leave with that.
Awesome. Dr. Lord, where can they find you? And the work that you do? Where can people find you?
You can go to empathic.ai to see our API with the Grammarly for Empathy, or empathy.rocks, where you can play the games for free and earn continuing education credits if you're a therapist.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. So incredible to have you and to see you again, Kevin. Every Tuesday, it's a joy to be doing this with you. So thank you both, and we'll catch you on the other side. Take care.